So the Minnesota Vikings season is over, and we have to address the annual question: should the Vikings fire Rick Spielman? Now, as you know, if you consume the channel for a while, I am a fan of Rick Spielman. I do think that he is probably a top 5 NFL GM, just in terms of finding value later in the draft, as well as assembling his defense. Yes, at the behest of Mike Zimmer, but ultimately it is Rick Spielman taking in advice from Zimmer, as well as funneling in information from the scouting departments to blah 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 blah, make those picks, right? And it would be complete if he had done better at the offensive line, although he is putting resources towards that end. You had second-round pick Brian O'Neill 2 years ago. You had first-round pick Garrett Bradbury, so that's trending in the right direction. Still not great, but trending in the right direction. And then he's gone all in several times on a couple of quarterbacks. So, if Teddy's leg didn't fall off, just think about how much simpler life would be right now. Probably hosting a dozen Jerome Bardys. Zimmer would actually be happy about life, and Spielman would be GM of the year. But anyways, I digress. He went all in, trading for Sam Bradford. Didn't work out because Bradford's leg also fell off. And now he decided to eschew Miracle Man Case Keenum, as well as Teddy Bridgewater after the 2017 season, going after Kirk Cousins, which 2 years into the 3-year, $84 million guaranteed deal, it's still incomplete. Where you look at the Kirk Cousins Vikings tenure so far, a mild success. You had a playoff win, as well as he was a big part of that playoff win. He played some fantastic football this year, but also you just feel like it's still a little empty, and you feel like you could do a little better, although I don't know. So it's completely incomplete. And we've talked about that. Spielman's future was directly tied to Kirk Cousins, and also probably tied to Mike Zimmer, because I think those are a 3-pack, and 2020 is going to be a big year for all three. But what if the Wilfs decide to go a different route? And this is sort of common, where teams are consistently on the brink and they're almost there, and then it's just someone got to go. Because you look at Bill Polian with the Bills back in the day, because when they were going to those 4 straight Super Bowls, Bill Polian was the architect of the team. They're phenomenal. I mean, Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, Thurman Thomas, they had Andre Reed, as well as James Lofton. They had 2 Hall of Fame wide receivers. They had talent up and down that roster, except 2 Super Bowl losses in a row. They fired Bill Polian. Yeah, you have a team that goes to the Super Bowl twice in a row, and you just fire the guy who built that team, right? And the Vikings are a much poor man's version of that. So could it be a spot where this team and the Wilfs, who to their credit, are extremely patient? They brought in Rick Spielman to be the general manager, and he's been the general manager for the bulk of the time that they've owned the team. So the fact that he's been just this steady hand at the helm, I think that they will give him a more of a future. But if they were going to move on from Rick Spielman, it would make sense if they were going to keep it in-house to move on to assistant general manager George Payton, where you want to stay the course. You want as much continuity as possible in terms of, you have assistant to the regional general manager George Payton stepping on up. You likely keep college scouting, pro scouting, and the network of scouts the same, at least through the upcoming draft, because here's the thing about the upcoming NFL draft, 70% of the work is already done, just in terms of visiting prospects, seeing games in person, grinding tape, all that stuff. And then you get to the Senior Bowl, the Combine, all the private workouts and stuff. That's after the fact. The bulk of the draft work is already done. So the fact that you're not going to wash out an entire staff right now makes sense. But also, the person who's picking those players, would it make sense to move on from Spielman now, or have another full year where he is the guy picking those players? Maybe those players don't work out, or Spielman understands that the writing is on the wall, that he is a dead man walking, and he's just like, whatever. And he just rolls those bones on the draft picks. I don't know. If the Vikings were going to move on for Spielman, I think they would do it very early in the offseason process. So I think it would be within a week. But also, I think they're going to give him another year. I think that they're going to ride this thing out. I don't think they're going to Bill Polian him. I think him, Zimmer, and Kirk Cousins are all in on 2020. And this could lead towards some really interesting moves for the Vikings, whether it be freeing up cap space by cutting Riley Reef as well as Xavier Rhodes, and potentially just going all in on a couple of prize free agents. TBD, the market's still a little bit tepid, but of course there's a bunch of players who end up making free agency after they are cap casualties, which is going to be happening. Or the Vikings just could make some really strong moves in the draft, because remember, Trader Rick is Trader Rick for a reason. Even though the Vikings are sitting at 25, maybe the Vikings go all in and snag Andrew Thomas, the premier tackle out of Georgia, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. I'd be all in for that. So I feel like everyone understands that the Wolves are extremely patient and they're great owners. They pay the money and then they get out of their people's way. But I think this might be it. I think 2020 may be the watershed moment for the future of the Vikings and who's at the helm, whether it's going to be Spielman, Zimmer, Cousins, or it's going to be a complete new cast of characters. So we'll find out. Your thoughts? Fire Spielman? Yeah or no? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, subscribe for daily Vikings takes. If you want to support the work, pull us up in the Venmo. Plus, give us a follow on social media as well. But till next time, Skol, production value.